Amongst the emperor's domestics at the Briars was a very droll character, his lamplighter, a sort of leporello, a little fellow most ingenious in making toys and other amusing mechanical contrivances. Napoleon would often send for the Scaramouche to amuse my brothers, who were infinitely delighted with his tricks and buffooneries. Sometimes he constructed balloons, which were inflated and sent up amidst the acclamations of the whole party. One day he contrived to harness 4 mice to a small carriage, but the little animals were so terrified that he could not get them to move. And after many ineffectual attempts, my brothers entreated the emperor to interfere. Napoleon told them to pinch the tails of the 2 leaders, and when they started, the others would follow. This he did, and immediately the whole 4 scampered off to our great amusement. Napoleon enjoying the fun as much as any of us, and delighted with the extravagant glee of my 2 brothers. I had often entreated the emperor to give a ball before he left the Briars for Longwood in the large room occupied by him, and which had been built by my father for that purpose. He had promised me faithfully he would, but when I pressed him urgently for the fulfillment of his word, he only laughed at me, telling me he wondered I could be so silly as to think such a thing possible. But I never ceased reproaching him for his breach of faith, and teased him so that at last, to escape my importunities, he said that as the ball was out of the question, he would consent by way of amende honorable to anything I chose to demand to console me for my disappointment. Dites-moi, que veux-tu que je fasse, Mademoiselle Betsy, pour te consoler? I replied instantly, if you will play the game of blindman's bluff that you have so often promised me, I will forgive you the ball and never ask for it again. Not knowing the French term, if there be any, for blind man's bluff, I had explained before to the emperor the nature of the operation to be gone through. He laughed at my choice and tried to persuade me to choose something else, but I was inexorable, and seeing his fate inevitable, he resigned himself to it with a good grace, proposing we should begin at once. My sister and myself and the son of General Bertrand and some others of the emperor's suite formed the party. Napoleon said we should draw lots who should be blindfolded first, and he would distribute the tickets. Some slips of paper were prepared, on one of which was written the fatal word l'amour, and the rest were blanks. Whether accidentally or by Napoleon's contrivance, I know not, but I was the first victim, and the emperor, taking a cambric handkerchief out of his pocket, tied it tightly over my eyes, asking me if I could see. I cannot see you, I replied, but a faint gleam of light did certainly escape through one corner, making my darkness a little less visible. Napoleon then, taking his hat, waved it suddenly before my eyes, and the shadow and the wind it made, startling me, I drew back my head. "Ah, little monkey," he exclaimed in English. "You can see pretty well." I then proceeded to tie another handkerchief over the first, which completely excluded every ray of light. I was then placed in the middle of the room, and the game began. The emperor commenced by creeping stealthily up to me and giving my nose a very sharp twitch. I knew it was he, both from the act itself and from the footstep. I darted forward and very nearly succeeded in catching him, but bounding actively away, he eluded my grasp. I then groped about and advancing again. He this time took hold of my ear and pulled it. I stretched out my hands instantly and in the exultation of the moment screamed out, "I've got you! I've got you! Now you shall be blindfolded!" But to my mortification and furthering my sister, under cover of whom Napoleon had advanced, stretching his hand over her head. We then recommenced, the emperor saying that as I had named the wrong person, I must continue blindfolded. He teased and quizzed me about my mistake and bantered me in every possible way, eluding at the same time with the greatest dexterity all my endeavors to catch him. At last, when the fun was growing fast and furious and the uproar was at its height, it was announced that someone desired an audience of the emperor, and to my great annoyance, as I had set my heart on catching him and insisting on his being blindfolded, our game came to a conclusion. Chapter 8. Wear this for me, one out of Sweet with Fortune. that would give more, but that her hand lacks means. Shakespeare. Master, go on, and I will follow thee to the last gasp with truth and loyalty. Our first dinner with the Emperor, the creams, New Year's Day, present from the Emperor, General Gurgo's sketch of Miss Blank, Napoleon's opinion of the Empress Josephine, account of Count Piankovsky, the Emperor's idea of Englishmen's devotion to wine, and badinage in accusing my countrywomen of the same propensity. The Emperor, having returned from seeing his visitor and his dinner hour approaching, he invited us to dine with him. We told him we had already dined. Then come and see me eat, he added. And when his dinner was announced by Cipriani, we accompanied him to his marquee. When at table, he desired Navarre, to bring in some creams for me. I declined them, and as I had dined, but I had unfortunately told him once before that I was very fond of creams, and though I begged in vain to be excused, repeating 1,000 times, "Did I had dined, and could eat no more," he pressed and insisted so strongly that I was at last obliged to comply, and with some difficulty managed to eat half a cream. But although I was satisfied, Napoleon was not, and when I left off eating, he commenced feeding me like a baby, calling me his little bambina, and laughing violently at my woeful countenance. At last, I could bear it no longer, and scampered out of the tent. The Emperor calling after me, "Stop, Miss Betsy, do stay and eat another cream. You know you told me you liked them." The next day, he sent in a quantity of bonbons by Marchand, with some creams, desiring his compliments to Mademoiselle Betsy, and intimating that the creams were for her.